Today we're here with Douglas James, founder and CEO of Amp Local and LeadFi. Douglas went from a broke Navy corpsman to making over $100 million in online sales for his high-ticket coaching businesses. His company, Amp Local, ranked not once but 3 times on the list of Inc. 5,000 fastest-growing businesses in the top 700. He's helped over 15,000 people transition from having their jobs to starting their own marketing agencies. Today, Douglas is growing a different business. Right now, his average results are over 40% increase in conversion rates from paid ads. So, Douglas, thanks for coming on the show, and let's jump straight in. How'd you get into online marketing and high-ticket sales?
Hey, Leon, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. So I got into the online space simply because I didn't want to be in the Navy or a job, for 20 or 30 years, right? I was serving active duty in the United States Navy. I was a hospital corpsman. I got to travel all over the world, see and do, beautiful and amazing things. I just remember back in early 2015, I went on this deployment to Papua New Guinea, Fiji, and the Philippines, a lot of these, Western Pacific islands. And it was a humanitarian mission. So we were out there literally just building schools for kids. We were rendering free medical aid to a lot of these Pacific Islanders. So, to this day, it's some of the best work I've ever done as a human being, right? But I just remember being there on our last day, and we were in, I think, Rojas City, Philippines, or one of these islands, and we get to the top of the hill, and you can't see what's up there. It was a construction zone, and we get to the top. We're carrying books of colors and coloring books and crayons and literature, and we see literally hundreds of kids. And for the first time, we saw all these kids, and we just built all these schools, these basketball courts, soccer fields, and I just remember them saying thank you, thank you, thank you, and hugging our leg and saying USA, 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 and it was at that moment, and that I was like, man, I think I'm ready to transition. I've done all I can do in the military, because at that time I hit also E6. So if you're at all familiar, for anyone that doesn't know about the US military, hitting E6 is like a high ranking supervisory position. I can be in charge of hundreds of people, and I hit that rank in 5 years when it takes the average person 12 years to hit it, right? So you can see how fast of a trajectory I was on in my military career. But I get back from that deployment, and I'm just like, man, I think I'm ready to transition, and I kind of got bored with the military because I knew how to make rank and I understood that system, right? And I felt like I wasn't being challenged. And I also wanted to have a family. I wanted to have kids, and I also wanted to create more impact and make more money, because I can donate my time, but I'm limited to the amount of time I have. But if I make more money, I can donate financially and have a way greater impact. So I'm a part of different organizations that help kids and veterans and do a lot of amazing things like this. So I get back from deployment, and the first thing I started doing was researching online, digital marketing, I was searching things you might search, like how to fire my job, how to make money online. Right. And that landed me into the digital marketing space. So
If I'm getting you right, your fast track in the military, you got your E6 in 5 years instead of 12 years. So you're always high paced. And this introduction, like you went into Navy corpsman, so you are actually helping people building all of these things. You always had this entrepreneurial spirit in you, but you were stuck in a job, right? And this is what a lot of people are facing as well. Like they find themselves in positions where they can't truly get the financial rewards that they want. But for you, you came from this one deployment after having this realization and started building a plan for yourself. So you started researching and you went into marketing. So how did that link into then starting with high ticket sales for you?
yeah. So the first thing that I landed on was search engine optimization. Okay. SEO. Right. So if you go to Google and you're trying to find, I don't know, a dentist because you got to get your teeth cleaned or whatever, you'll type in, your city or your province and, the business. So I live in San Diego, California. Right. So I'll type in, San Diego dentist. So all the businesses that are ranked number 1, 2, 3 on Google, they're not just there by accident. They're there because they have such an online reputation and different mentions online that Google wants to push and mention them in the top search. And now we have things like AI mode that's now serving up those top businesses as well because of their brand reputation online. So I got into SEO, and I learned how to do SEO, and within like 5 months, I was making 50 grand a month. It was literally my annual salary in the military, and I was making that on the monthly basis. And what's crazy is I was learning from these different people online on YouTube and everything, and I just remember, and I thought they were legit, and they were legit to me. But I woke up one day and I went to go check all my websites on all my clients, and they literally disappeared from page one of Google. And I literally lost my $50,000 a month business like overnight. And it's because Google had released this algorithm update called the Penguin, and today we call it the Penguin Killer. All right, and it basically flagged SEOs for black hat practices. I didn't know what that meant. I was just like, this is how you do it, right? Um, so I lost my business overnight, and I had around 20 or so clients paying me anywhere between $1,000 to $2,500 a month, and literally only like five of those clients were like willing to work with me. Everyone else was like, you scammed us, you screwed us over, like we're moving on, no thank you, basically. So those five clients, I basically offered them, well, hey, let me run your ads for you, right? So Facebook ads was popping off. Google ads, you always see the Google ads at the top of the search. So those people are paying to be up there, so let me learn how to run ads. So of course I get into it, and I'm horrible at running ads, right? Four of those clients end up firing me and letting me go after 30 days. But one of the clients, I got them results, and they end up
Right.
making like an additional $30,000 profit. And they cut me a check for like 7 grand, which was a profit share on what we agreed on prior to those 30 days. And then from there, man, I just scaled up my lead generation agency. I started working with uh, small businesses again, and I actually got back to 50 grand in less than half the time that it took me the first time. But doing lead gen lead generation through Facebook advertising and Google advertising. And then you asked me about how did I get into like the high ticket space. Well, I was still active duty in the military, you right? So I served 4 years active duty in uniform every day for my country before I could get out while I'm still building this agency. And mind you, I'm making my annual salary on the monthly basis while I'm still active duty, showing up every day at attention, being told what to do, where to go, when to take lunch, all the things. And during
Here's
that
maybe one
time,
question, because that'll be very important for the audience to also maybe understand more of what really motivates, what really drives you. What made you stay these additional 4 years if you're already making your annual salary in a month?
here's the thing, it's not really a choice. Okay, when you sign a contract with the government, you kind of have to fulfill that contract.
Okay.
Or
Okay.
and
Fair.
if you don't, there could be really bad repercussions. Like you could be they could throw you in the brig or the jail. They can take away your rank, take away your pay. They can make life living hell for you, and then they'll kick you out. And when they kick you out, they'll give you something called a dishonorable discharge, which means if I ever try to go get a job, even though I'm an entrepreneur, okay, give me a dishonorable discharge, whatever, and I'm an entrepreneur. I don't need to apply for a job. But if I did need to apply for a job, that's going to look really bad on my resume, right? For the rest of my life. So I didn't want that. I wanted to fulfill the rest of my time with dignity, and commit to my contract, which I did. Um, but it wasn't easy at all. It wasn't easy at all. I had a mentor. I do have a mentor, Randy Massengale. Randy Massengale was the senior advisor to Bill Gates. And Randy Massengale told me one day, he's like, there's two tyrants of leadership, right? So whenever you're successful, you make money, you better your life, you're trying to up level your life, people are going to do one or two things to you. They're either going to scrutinize you or expect things from you, right? So on the scrutiny side, when I was making money, I bought like this $200,000 Mercedes. I was driving on base, mind you. The military's paying me like 5 grand a month, and I'm making like 50 grand a month in my business, right? And I'm driving on base in this $200,000 car. I'm not really quiet about it. I'm telling people what I'm doing. So my chain of command, my superiors, did not like that I had this business, that I was making this money. So they made my life basically living hell. They tried to get me kicked out the military, and put me up before a board. I had to go see the captain of the whole base, and they were like, this sailor's not authorized to be an entrepreneur or business owner. And basically, the CEO said, "Hey, there's no UCMJ articles or regulations stating that he can't be an active duty entrepreneur, right? Which you can't. You know, they tried to get me to fill out paperwork, which was to go apply for a job, but I signed on employer and employee, and they just it
Right.
wasn't clicking. It wasn't clicking for them. So the CEO said, "Hey, you're dismissed. Have a great day. This case is closed." And I about faced and left. And my chain of command was furious. Their face was like, "Oh my god, dude!" They were so you could literally see steam like coming off of them. It was that bad. So I hit, and after that, they basically couldn't touch me. So I finished my time quietly. I did my thing under the radar. But the other beautiful side to that, like I said, is expectations, right? So I did have people come up to me say, "Hey man, you're making money. I'm getting out the military. How do you do that?" So I remember I had a master chief come up to me, a career long master chief. That's an E9. It's the highest rank you can go in the military. He comes up to me and so he's like, "Hey man, I've been in for 25 years. I'm 45 years old. I'm getting out the military next month and I don't want to sit in a classroom full of 19-year-olds. Will you teach me what you do?" And that's typically what happens when you're in the military. You don't get your college degree or have your, job set up when you get out. There's like this big transition process. So I told him, "Yeah, I'll teach you." So I went home, I recorded everything I did. I shot about a dozen videos, how I acquire clients, how I run Facebook ads, how I set up the funnel, how I write copy, all of these things, different books that he can read to learn from as well. And I gave that all to him. And then he took it. And by the next weekend, he landed a client paying him $1,000 a month. And he came back and gave me 900 bucks. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And that was like a light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, wow, people are willing to pay you for what you know. So knowledge is super, super powerful. So when we talk about the coaching space and how it's a multi-billion-dollar a year industry, you know, this industry is only getting bigger, right? You would think of like, Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is a huge coach and prolific name that's famous, world renowned, but he had a coach, right? And his coach name, his name is Jim Rohn. So we look at Tony Robbins like, wow, what a phenomenal coach. Well, he had a coach too, and then he had a coach, right? And it goes on and more on and on. So if there's somewhere you want to be, you have to be willing to go find people that are doing what you want to do, and then pay them for their time. That's like the biggest thing, So I realized that, and that was firsthand experience for me. So immediately what I did was I started to create coaching material, courses, and products that people could invest in to get access to my knowledge, time, and expertise. Right. I went from selling a course for 5 grand to selling a done with you program for 10 grand, where I had an online academy where people can log in every week, and the instructor would build the business as they went. And then I rolled out a $25,000 program where they worked with us for 90 days. And then our team did a lot of the heavy lifting when it came to marketing assets and client acquisition. And then finally, they eventually, all of our clients were like, "Hey, we want to spend more time with you. We want to see you in person." So then I rolled out a $50,000 program. I got into a 7,000 square foot penthouse, and I started to host these really private, exclusive workshops and events where every single week for like 4 years straight, I'm sorry, every month for like 4 weeks straight, every month for 4 years straight,
Yes.
I had I had 5 to 10 people, in the penthouse learning from me, and I would have my mentors there, and I would bring in guest speakers. But we were actually delivering marketing services for them, and delivering their funnel, their assets, their copy, their videos, their content, their social media strategy, everything. And then we would even take their calls for them, and help them land their first deal too. So that's kind of what I scaled up. I really scaled up the coaching consulting model to a high level. To at one point we were doing just about 3 million a month, in that business, doing total with everything over 100 million in revenue, and we helped over 15,000 people in that process. And you mentioned the Inc. 5000. Yeah, we landed on the Inc. 5000 in the last 3 years, 3 years in a row, in the top 700 list. So we did a lot of good and helped a lot of people, and it's been amazing work. So
Thanks for breaking down this entire journey. So you scaled from having this first military personnel coming to you saying, "Hey, how'd you manage to get these clients for SEO, then for paid ad services?" And that's what got you into coaching. But I'm very curious, especially for people who are perhaps having their own coaching offers and they want to scale, they want to take it further, they want to maybe take it to 100 million someday. What would be the tactical breakdown of how you actually got it from the first couple of clients to then getting to 5, 10K and then 50K masterminds?
Oh yeah, 100%. Let's talk some brass tacks, tactical stuff here. So, and I'll bring it all the way back on how I used to acquire clients to how we do it today. And it's going to be a fun thing to talk about because it's really evolved, over the last 10 years. I like to joke and say I've been running Facebook ads since clicks were cool. Clicks are not cool anymore. You got to sales conversions. That's what that's what it kills. Who
Right.
actually gave you money, right? But anyway, back when I first started client acquisition, because client acquisition is the key thing that you need to know. You need to know client acquisition, which is powered by your ability to sell, right? Getting the client or customer to give you money for your product or service, right? At the end of the day, that's what any business owner cares about. And you get into business to make money. If your business is not making money, you do not have a business, right? We can love our business as much as we want and be passionate and have impact and all those things, but at the end of the day it's a business, so it's economics, right? It's generating revenue, it's having enough profit loss margin to be able to survive and pay your bills and pay your payroll and actually make a living, you know make investments and prosper. Anyway, so back in the day when I first started client acquisition, I would literally, so I was serving active duty. I would literally go on like 2 hour lunch breaks. I would change out of my uniform. I would have a briefcase. I would walk into businesses and ask for the business owner just to have a conversation, right? I would go and visit your local mom and pop coffee shops. And at the mom and pop coffee shops, the little, not the Starbucks ones, but the little ones, it's like
Right.
one of one. There's always like a cork board, right? And on the cork board, everyone pins their business card, right? I would go in there and clean the cork board off, get all the business cards, and go home and just start calling every single phone number, right? That's what I did when I first started, right? And then the next thing I started getting into was I learned about email marketing. Okay, so now we can go online and start to. There was tools back then in like 2015, not as sophisticated that they are now, where you can basically go to a website and a tool, a Google Chrome extension, and you could scrape the emails off Google based off of whether they're on LinkedIn or Facebook, or if they're dentists or if they're chiropractors or if they're coaches or whatever the thing is. You can start to scrape all these emails basically for free, and now you can start to email people, right? And that's what I started to do next, is really just learn about email marketing and learning how that worked. Because we talk about how email, people like to joke and say email is dead. Email is very alive and well. We all operate off email. We check our email, we respond to it. It might be a little bit more passive, or we're not as responsive as to like a text message, but that's okay. It's going to live in the inbox, and people are eventually going to get to it, whether it's that day or next week. So
It
emails,
sounds like it was very much of like an organic growth, right? Like you started with hard knocks, simply changing your uniform, then picking up the numbers, calling them up, then emails. So like every single step seems to be like adding on top of what you were already doing. You weren't inventing the wheel. You were basically doing literally the most fundamental basics and then going to another one.
that's it. Yeah, calling numbers, walking into businesses, knocking on doors, calling phone numbers, text messaging people, and then starting emailing. Right. That's really, I spend time going over the email because we got really heavy into client acquisition through email marketing first before we even got into paid ads, right? So we found a website called Sales Genie, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of them, like now at like a days, today there's probably like 1,000 different Sales Genies, but this one you could pay 50 cents and get the name, email, phone number of like any type of business owner in the country or the world. And so when I found that, I'm like, cool, now I can actually get their cell phone number and I can call and text message them there too. So that's what we're doing. So I was doing like a very manual, barbaric style, to scale back then. This is 10, 11 years ago, right? This is like before GHL automation AI, right? So we got really proficient at email marketing too. Like I was so dialed in on the email marketing that I knew every 1,000 emails I sent, I would get at least, 3 to 5 appointments booked, which was great, you know,
It's a good
back in the
conversion
day.
rate.
Yeah, it's pretty good, decent conversion rate, right? I think if you tried that strategy today, you're lucky if you get one appointment. It might take you 5,000 to get like one appointment. Um, but
Pretty much.
email still works. It's just a numbers game, So it wasn't until I got into, I was running Facebook ads for the local businesses and got really good at running ads. So I understood targeting, understood custom audiences, lookalike audiences, all of those things. Facebook started to roll out their conversion events so you can optimize for people that viewed the page, opted in, booked a call. And then eventually sales conversions came out with actual dollar amounts attached to it. So there's companies like Hyros and ClickMagic and Segmetrics now that you can use, and actually it'll tell you it's actually, obviously what ad campaigns are making you the most money. That's like not new information if you're a media buyer, but that, that eventually came out 2017 or around 2017. But we got into paid ads really heavy for the coaching and consulting business, probably, which is the most interesting topic here that you want to get at, because I eventually spent over $30 million on ads for that one business basically alone, you know, and there was times where it was profitable and there was times it wasn't profitable, and we experienced like a lot of ups and downs when we were running traffic, and what I'll tell you is that most of the time it's not even your advertising or your media buyer. You have to have like a really solid offer, and you have to be speaking the right message to the right crowd, so for me, I'm a military veteran. I was a dad. I was an entrepreneur, right? And I was in the medical field. That was kind of like the four pillars of like who I was, and I was a man, right? So maybe five pillars, So what I did was I just focused on those pillars because what I realized early on in my military career is that your story is everything. Who you are, there's only one of you in all of creation, right? And people get really upset or discouraged or afraid in business because they're like, oh, what about competition? Or they're doing that over there. I want to compare myself to them. You never have to do that in business or worry about competition because there's only one of you in all creation. You're the only one that has your own story. So what I've been really good at when it came from an advertising and marketing perspective is just me being my genuine self and telling my story of how I came from where I was and the results that I produce and where I'm at now. And I was able to articulate, that message to many different people online. So my advertising was always based around, family, faith, fitness, and all those things, and having a business that provides me the freedom and lifestyle to do what I would really want to do in life, you know. Um, and then
I
when
think
we get into
what you
like,
broke down in here, just to chime in, looks like we're basically going after people that have like in some way reflect you, right? There's this saying that people buy from people like you. But if we're thinking about it, a lot of, especially our audience, like they're scaling their own offers, they're looking to grow their own agencies. And at some point, like every agency is to some degree struggling to get new additional clients. But what you're breaking down to us, and generally that's the theme that I've been getting from the very beginning, which is it's really the simple things and you're just doing them over and over again. Like even the timelines
oh yeah,
that we've been talking about in this podcast, it took you 4 years before you got out of the military. And if I get the timelines right, only then did you really start to scale the coaching offer. In that period, in these 4 years, you were still like mastering the craft, doing all of these outreaches, getting the first clients, getting results for them. And so then you've obviously generated the results that could then put into your own offer for hey, if you want similar results to me, if you're similar to me in any of your interests or any of ways that we can look at you, then you've managed to like organically build this trust. You didn't have to posture anything. You have to convince anyone that your offer is better. You're basically speaking to people like you. from that to also get to a little bit more into the tactics of your high coaching offers. You said that when you were running ads and you spent 30 millions to until acquire 100 millions, at times they were profitable, at times they weren't, but in the end you managed to help 15,000 people with all these different offers. I heard recently there was on a podcast, I think it was the CEO of Whoop. um, he mentioned that there's this trend right now that everybody is talking about learning from failures. But for him, with Whoop, it was actually about learning from the one success that he had. So, what did your success with scaling Amped Local? What's the biggest lesson that you learned in actually succeeding?
My answer is probably not going to be what you're looking for, but it's my answer. So here's the thing. This is what I learned about the success part of it. If you have something that is truly valuable, that gets people results, and they publicly share that with other people, and and you watch them have a life-changing experience, you become morally you should become morally obligated to continue that work and not give up, because once you save one person's life, I've had events. I had a military veteran come up to me, give me a handwritten letter 8 pages long, and in that letter it detailed his life, his experiences, his time in the service, and basically his family that doesn't want anything to do with him, his kids, his grandkids, and how 2 weeks ago he was planning his own suicide. And then he woke up one day, opened his phone, turned on Instagram, and saw me talking about this event that I was putting on. And he decided to come to the event. And by the end of the event, actually after the first day, he decided he was going to live for his kids and his grandkids and change his life. So when you experience that firsthand, even if it's someone making their first $1,000, like my first coaching client ever, making his first $1,000, when you start to experience those wins, you can't give up, because now if you give up, the ripple effect stops. You'll cut off the opportunity for other people to learn and grow from you, or even save their life or save their businesses. So what my thing has always been is, I've always been willing to be outside my comfort zone and speak and share stories and take on opportunities. Every time there's an opportunity, I have discernment. How is this going to serve me, and what is the potential impact of this going to be? But I never stop accepting those opportunities and having that discernment, because I know what the potential outcomes, like I know this is going to be seen by probably thousands and thousands or tens of thousands of people or more, probably millions. So I'm always going to accept these, right? So that's why, getting back to my last point, your mess and kind of how things came about in your life is so important to your story, and it will be the I promise you, it will be the determining factor of how successful you are, in business, right? That's why I'm such a huge proponent and believer of that. If you try to have a facade and live a lifestyle or be someone that you're not, people see straight through that. The market's sophisticated. The market's sophisticated. People read straight through that stuff, right? So when we're talking about all this has to do about marketing and selling at the end of the day, you know. So you have to be genuine in your marketing and how you position yourself online and in your videos, because people will find out, right? So um I'll tell you this, because this is like a little gold nugget into more of like a technical thing, but people are always trying to target like a whole bunch of broad audiences online. What we did was, I actually focused on, in my coaching consulting company, I focused on people's careers, where they were in their career, and turn them into lead generation experts for their career field. So the roofer that's nailing nails for 20 years, the nurse practitioner that's running around the hospital for 20 years and her back hurts, I basically took their 20, 30 years of experience and gave them a blueprint on how to start a lead generation agency. They went out into everyone in that industry to be the go-to lead provider. And that's how I was selling those 20, 25, and 50K programs, because I was just taking experts, subject matter experts that are already great at what they do, and I just bolted on the ability to generate leads using their knowledge and expertise. So that's like one way to think about how you set up packages and how you target people and what is your avatars, and then we would run ads basically to every single type of demographic in our ICP. You know, veterans, nurse practitioners, doctors, real estate agents. We would run it to all, but it all had the same underlying blueprint, right? It wasn't just one broad general message. You know, so we got really targeted. So I'd say that's really what I learned at a high level, you know, from that success. And then and there's a lot of things that I learned through failures, but through the actual successes, the ability to help people and actually make an impact. If you're doing something that's good and it's getting great results, it's going to show, and it's going to really help elevate you above everyone else. While everyone's making cookie cutter, copy and paste, uh, you know, results, you're out here actually creating unique, cutting edge things that's unique to you and your story. That's what's important.
Think your vision is, and generally how you've been describing growth of your business, it's very different than how I usually hear people position their business. But all you've been talking about so far is pretty much the vision that your business has had for other people, and like this focus on them, not necessarily on you, in everything that you're doing. And you kind of being the meta example, right? Because you were serving people like you, helping them serve people like, and then helping other people serve people like them, right? Just teaching them the skills that you've acquired, which in the end, like that's how you built the business that generated $100 million in sales. So you've always made it about your prospect. You've always made it about delivering them the value. And you also weren't like, I was checking out previously and all of your messaging, and it's super consistent, as you're saying right on this podcast. Like we're never posing in Lambos, making like uh, Ibiza style vacations. You're like standing by your values, standing by your interests, and basically like making it about just generating this greater good, as you're saying to us. And
Yeah,
so,
and I'll just state this one thing before we move on. You got to treat people like ATM machines. You got to make a deposit before you can make a withdrawal. So give value first, then ask later. Like that's the way business works. If you want to go far and long in business, you have to have that mentality. There's a book my mentor wrote called "What's in It for Them." My other mentor, Joe Polish, "What's in It for Them." I People should read that book.
great book,
I
great book.
remember. So I'll just wrap up this quick thought. But when I was getting out the military, I told you about Tony Robbins. Another person I was looking into was Zig Ziglar, who's also a mogul, OG mogul. I remember reading his book, and a quote in there stated, "Help other people get what they want. You can have all you want in life." And that resonated so much with me because my whole military career, which I didn't mention this, but it was all focused on helping my junior sailors rise and win. So anything I took on project or anything I volunteered for, I always brought people with me, right? So I do the same thing in my companies and my business. I bring people with me and I figure out what their wants and needs are, and I help them get as close to what matters to them as fast as possible, so that when I'm trying to whatever the greater mission is I'm trying to accomplish, I know I've given so much goodwill and value to these people that they're going to be on board to help me go far and fast of where I'm trying to go. So that's the whole idea. Your business is the same. People sign up with you because they have a problem, you have the solution. So you have to be willing to give them enough value to see that you can solve that problem, but not enough where they don't pay you, right? Not so much where they don't pay you, but that you in that goodwill, they would want to exchange their hard-earned dollars or euros, wherever this is located in the world, or German francs, uh, your,
British pounds.
that money to do business with you. So I hope that makes sense.
I think that goes even deeper than just business itself. Like you're laying down to us the basics of human relationships and how you're building a relationship with anyone. But I think that's a good segue to, okay, you scaled Amp Local 3 times in Inc. 5000, but right now we're focusing on a different company. So talk to me more about LeadFi. Why LeadFi? Why after Amp Local? What's the sequence there?
Yeah. So LeadFi is my SaaS technology company. Basically, I'll tell you what it does and I'll tell you how we got here. So what LeadFi does is it basically gives you someone's exact purchasing power the second they opt into your funnel or website. So we take the name, email, phone number right out the gate. We're able to pull like their exact credit score, how much money they can spend on their credit cards and their wallet. We tell you what their debt to income ratio is, their annual income, and then we underwrite how much they're pre-approved for in additional funding as well. I can even get their liquid assets, retirement assets, 401k, IRA, stocks, bonds, CDs, deposits, brokerage accounts, ETFs, even real estate assets. So we know their net worth. We basically know without a shadow of a doubt, are they financially qualified or are they not? And then from there, we can plug it into our marketing, our advertising, our sales process, and it just makes everything more streamlined and efficient. We got here with LeadFi because towards the end of my run up with the coaching consulting company, we were at peak doing almost, 3 million a month, and everything was great. And but when you're selling high ticket, you know, 5K, 10K, 25K and up, sometimes the sales cycle goes from 3 weeks to maybe 3 months. Right? People need time because they got to think about it, raise the capital, talk to their partner or their spouse, whatever the case is. So the sales cycle is drawn out for a higher ticket. It's not usually one call closes or people buy within a week. It's like usually a lot of follow-ups have to take place. So naturally, as a business owner, I can't look at my profit and loss statement on the month to month basis because I know within every quarter I'm going to have 1 or 2 months that are in the red. Right? Not every month is going to be in the green all the time. And that's acceptable if you're looking at your data over a long enough period of time. Some people don't look at their profit and loss until it's time to file taxes at the end of the year. And then some people don't look at it until over a 5-year period because they know they're gonna have 2 or 3 bad years, but like 1 or 2 amazing years, and that makes it okay. But in my business at that time, almost 2 years ago now, I experienced 2 quarters back to back in the red, and I lost over 8 figures. Like boom, within 6 months. I'm like, wow, you know, our campaigns kind of tanked. Our sales team. I was going through this situation with the sales partners I had at the time as well. A lot of balls were dropped, unfortunately. And around that time, I was so consumed in like my business and trying to fix it. I brought on every marketing sales guru you can think of, marketing attribution softwares, CRO specialist, everything. And I'm so hyper focused on this that I lose sight of like my family and my kids. And then mind you, I'm traveling and flying all over the place, speaking on stages, doing podcasts, all the things, and I completely lost sight of like everything, and it was tumbling. It was like I hit like rock bottom. And it was like one day I was in my office and I grew up, Christian. My mom's Catholic. My mom's technically from Guatemala, believe it or not. Um, and she's Catholic, and I grew up Catholic, but like, Christianity or our faith wasn't a big part of like our upbringing. But my wife is like really Catholic and Christian. So, and I believed in God, and I'm like, well, this is it. There's no one else to turn to. It's just me. And I just threw my hands up and surrendered my life to God, and, the very next day, man, what's so crazy? Here's the crazy thing. The very next day, someone throws me in a 3-way chat with my partner, Eric, which from there we created LeadFi. And Eric's been in the financial world for almost 20 years, underwriting for the biggest banks, has relationships with TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian and FICO even. And he was working on the tech, and I came in and I was like, hey, I done all this numbers and understand the high ticket coaching space. I want to put I put the use cases in, to the space, and boom, it saved my offer. And I told one person about it, and it went basically viral. So now we have over 200 to 9-figure brands using LeadFi. Some of the biggest people you probably follow on social media use it. And we're doing well over 100,000 leads a month now. And it's amazing. I basically wanted, what it does, it gives you certainty. I was so uncertain because in our sales process and marketing, people fill out an application, right? And on the application, we would ask, "Hey, what do you do for a living? How much money do you make per month? What's your annual salary?" We were asking those questions because we want to know, "Hey, can you afford what we're selling?" That's at the end of the day, that's why you ask those questions. But what we found was people lie on the application, or you have a setter call them to ask them about their finances. People lie because they don't want to be honest about what their money looks like, and probably rightfully so. I'm not always honest either. So the market is more sophisticated. So we had to figure out how to change the math in our funnel, right? How do we get away from asking these questions to actually just getting the data and focusing on the value that we provide, right? Because it's a turnoff. People see the questions, they get turned off. People actually opt out of your funnel around 30% of the time as soon as you start to ask them about their finances. So you can eliminate the questions and then just let LeadFi do what LeadFi does. That will actually decrease your cost per call or cost per acquisition by as much as 30% or more, right? And that's what we did. So it's funny because we, on the application, we
I'm
realized,
curious, and if you wouldn't mind bringing it up, because that's probably something that's in the heads of many of our listeners now. How is this even legal?
yeah, let's go right into that compliance and legality. So, I mean, basically, we do a soft credit pull. It doesn't impact the person's credit, and the practice of doing this is called pre-screening. So, it's the same thing. If for anyone that lives in the United States, or if you have a friend that lives in the United States, ask them if they've ever gotten a pre-approved credit card in the mail without applying for it or asking for it or consenting for it. The banks pull our credit nonstop, and if there's an offer to be made, they'll mail it and let you know, "Hey, you're pre-approved for 25 grand for this credit card. Call now to get the card." I got one just a few days ago when I went to go check the mail state Friday or whenever day it was. I get them all the time. So if you have decent credit, you're going to get the pre-approvals. Um, but yeah, that's all it does. There's like a small update that has to happen to your terms of service or your privacy policy and on your page. But other than that, it doesn't. There's nothing. It doesn't affect conversion rates or anything. So it's a very smooth, simple process. But yeah, we're able to get this data real time per contact record in your CRM. No matter what CRM you use, you'll have all of their credit, financial, or asset data right there in the contact record.
And so when businesses are actually using that, you're saying that they're getting 40% increase in conversion rates just from actually having accurate data.
Yeah. So the way it works is you get the data, getting the data is one thing, but you got to be able to use the data effectively in your marketing, in your advertising, in your media buying, I should say, in your sales process. So my favorite way to get the data back into Meta and Google is simply by setting up custom events, custom conversion events. You can do that in Facebook or Google, and every time someone triggers an event like books a call, opts in, or even buys, before notifying your pixel of that conversion event, what you want to do is you want to filter it for like a credit score. So if they have like a 700 plus credit score, that's then and only then do you feed that data back to train the pixel, right? Because here's the thing, just because someone buys your product, like people like to optimize off buyers, because someone buys doesn't mean they're going to be a good buyer. Okay, anyone can raise money or borrow money from their grandma or whatever the case is, and the first sign of things not working out, they're going to want to charge back or complain or leave you a bad review, right? So what we found, for whatever reason, people that have higher credit scores typically a little bit more level-headed, and they have more access to capital, and they're probably better people to work with. So why not optimize your ad campaigns for those people, right? And so what we found, an average, we see about an average 40% increase in number of qualified leads that book in or come into your funnel. And this just means 40% more people on average can actually afford what you're selling. Whereas before LeadFi, these 40% would have been the people that wasted your time, that were broke, that book calls, no showed, and just caused a bunch of mess for your sales team. So yeah, it is significant. The other favorite thing we like is to actually inject it into the sales process. So when somebody opts in, we immediately reveal like who's qualified and who's not, right? Through our lead scoring. And so we notify your sales team or setter team, "Hey, this person just opted in, they're qualified, call them and set them to book a call immediately," right? Because we know not everyone's going to go through the funnel and book a call or even show up to the call. So if you can speed to lead someone in under 5 minutes, there's a 21% times a chance you're going to actually get in touch with them. If you call them within uh, 1 minute, you have about a 391% increase of that person actually converted into a sale, right? So instead of wasting time calling all your leads and setting them all, only call the 20 or 30% of people that can actually buy. Because by the time you call that person and you're calling all these broke people, it might take you three, four, five dials to find someone that can afford what you're selling. Do they even pick up by then, or do they even remember who you are? Right. So that's why it's so important to put it into your sales team, in your setter team, and as well. So
So seems like for many marketers, basically we're always looking for different things that we can optimize in our entire conversion funnel, from the very ads to the sales process itself and everything in between. But where you seem to be providing an edge, and that's not really something that I've heard other people do, which is basically you just give people better data. It's like
that's
as if you were just like, if you were running, like if we took it to meta, like you were just getting like leads that are more qualified because the algorithm worked more on the true data of whether they're actually going to be a good customer for you or not. And you're breaking it down to the most basic level, which is, can they actually afford your service?
That's it. This is the best data on the planet. You might spend $20 to get someone's name, email, phone number on Facebook or Meta, or Instagram, or Google, right? What if for less than 20% of the cost of that cost, you can actually have real, true financial and credit insights of, can they actually afford what you're selling? So it's way cheaper than just generating the lead in the first place, right? So that's what we offer.
What's the catch?
I mean, there's really no catch. The catch is you at the end of the day. I've consulted many brands. We've talked to probably over 1,000 brands at this point, and at the end of the day, it's usually a paradigm shift in their own mind on how they run their ads, or how they qualify leads, or how they redirect and route leads in their sales funnel, right? It is a paradigm shift. So when you work with us and you're considering this, you really have to alter the way you think about marketing and advertising, right? And you should, because your consumer they're smarter. They're lying to you about their finances. They're booking calls and wasting time on your sales team's calendar. So why aren't you adapting and changing how you show up to that? So it really is a paradigm shift, you know. So you have to change, like I said, how you target them on Facebook or Google, how you follow up or manage your leads in your sales pipeline. Instead of using information that the consumer gives you, which could be 50% accurate because they lie half of the time, stop asking those questions and just let LeadFi do what LeadFi does. So the quicker you can make that shift, this is going to be the new way to run ads and manage your sales team and prioritize leads, 2025, 2026, and all the way forward, right? So you need to change that behavior of how you're showing up in the high ticket space, because ads are getting more expensive. Um, Buyers don't trust sellers. All right, people don't trust motives. Okay, there's almost like a trust recession happening right now. So the more you can actually just focus on you, your story, your message, and the value you're trying to give to the world in your product or service, whatever problem your solution solves, and stop asking people about their finances and just focus on that. Use cutting edge disruptive technology like LeadFi and other cool things to give yourself better results. So I would say, you asked me what the catch is. The catch is you.
If we're looking into, like right now, everybody's advertising on the same platforms, the cost of advertising will only go up, and AI is taking over the creative creation process. So if there's anything that you can stand up with, it seems like, at least what you're telling me, it's to just get better data of who of these people can actually buy, which is something that Meta can't access or any other advertising platform can't access directly, and you probably wouldn't even want them to do that. Um, Douglas, thanks so much for breaking this down, for breaking down your entire journey and breaking down how now it's working with LeadFi. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to our audience before we wrap it up?
I mean, I just want to thank you, Leon, for the opportunity. This has been a complete honor. And what I'll just share as we close here on a personal level, um, a mentor once told me, most people choose the certainty of misery to the misery of uncertainty, right? So to picture that, picture there's two doors, right? Behind door number one, it's the life as you know it, right? You're certain of exactly what you're going to get, the same job or the same, low income business or the same opportunities, right? The same lifestyle, right? You unfortunately 99% of people keep choosing that door because they know what they're going to get. But door number two, they're uncertain of what's behind that door, but they know that everything that they want in life and business and all the things could be behind that door, but they're so scared and miserable with that decision of that uncertainty that they'll never choose it. Really, the less than 1% actually go through that door. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're watching this right now, I know you've chosen door number two at some point in your life, and you might be choosing that door today, but that door is a door that you have to choose every single day, because entrepreneurship, marriage, life, business, parenthood, all of it is a daily discernment that you have to choose yes, no, positive, negative, good or bad, right? So there's days I wake up where I don't want to do anything. I'm struggling. I don't want to take this call, right? I lose a deal. It discourages me. But entrepreneurship is about managing all of that, having discernment and continuing to push forward regardless of what's being thrown at you. So entrepreneurship can suck at times, but it's a life we choose to continue forward, because what's the alternative? What's the alternative? Working for someone else that might not be, helping us getting closer to our goals, dreams, aspirations, taking orders from someone we don't appreciate, that doesn't appreciate us, right? Not having true freedom to take care of our family and do the things we want in life. So that's different for everyone. But to me, entrepreneurship is the most important thing, because it literally saves people's lives. It provides opportunity for other people. It provides jobs, and it betters the economy. It runs the world economy. So that's the message that I'll share. Don't quit. Keep going forward and keep following people like Leon, Perspective, and their company as well. So I appreciate your time, Leon.
Thanks so much, Douglas. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you found this valuable, if you want to connect with Douglas, you can do it by following the links in the description below. We're going to leave his Instagram. We're going to give links to LeadFi so you can check it out for yourself. And if you found the episode valuable, feel free to join our school community where we share more insights around marketing, funnel building, and growing your business. Most of our guests are in the community and will be happy to answer your questions. You can also propose who the next guests will be. Link to join the community is in the description below.